Okay, so when I say corporate financial report, what comes to mind? Probably something incredibly dry, right? But sometimes these documents actually tell a pretty gripping story. And today, we're going to crack open Altria's latest quarterly report, their 10Q, to find the story of a corporate giant trying to change its entire identity.
So, where did we get all this? Well, it all comes from this one document, a 73-page report filed with the government. It is dense, it is super formal, and believe me, it is not exactly beach reading.
Yeah, you open it up and boom, you're hit with page after page of legal speak, crazy financial tables, and footnotes that'll make your head spin. I mean, this stuff is really designed for accountants and lawyers, not for the rest of us.
Which, of course, brings us to the big question. Why on earth should you care about any of this? Why would we spend time digging through a document that seems intentionally complicated? Because, and this is the cool part, buried under all that complexity is a fascinating drama. It's the story of a massive company, a company built on a product that's slowly fading away, trying to navigate this perfect storm of shrinking sales, epic legal battles, and a huge risky bet on a smoke-free future. All right, to really get what's going on, we have to start at the foundation of Altria's entire business, their traditional cigarettes. This is the engine that funds absolutely everything else they do.
First, let's just look at the raw numbers, pulled right from the report. You can see a pretty steep drop in how many cigarettes they're shipping. I mean, in just the first 9 months of the year, they shipped over 7 billion fewer cigarettes compared to last year. That is a huge drop. But, and this is where it gets really interesting, here's the twist. Even though they sold billions fewer cigarettes, their profit from those same products actually went up by over $150 million. So, how is that even possible? Well, the answer is something called pricing power. They're simply charging more for every single pack, and that price hike is more than making up for the fact that they're selling less. This is what turns their old-school cigarette business into an incredible cash cow. And that river of cash is what's paying for their very, very expensive journey into the future. So, all that cash brings us to the second chapter of this story, the big strategic pivot. See, Altria knows that the cigarette business isn't going to last forever, so they're trying to transform the whole company, moving toward what they keep calling a smoke-free future. The game plan is pretty simple, at least on paper. They're trying to shift focus away from their legacy business, cigarettes, and go all in on big bets in new areas, like e-vapor products and oral nicotine pouches. But as we're about to see, this pivot is turning out to be anything but simple. And this is where we hit a major roadblock. And it comes with a massive price tag. Get ready for this number, $873 million. And no, that's not revenue or profit. That's the cost of one giant mistake in their new strategy. So that number is something accountants call a goodwill impairment. It sounds complicated, but the idea is actually pretty simple. Imagine you buy a company. Anything you pay over the value of its physical stuff is called goodwill. An impairment charge is basically the company putting on a suit, walking into a room and admitting, yeah, we messed up, we overpaid, and this thing isn't worth what we thought it was. So here's the play-by-play of how this unfolded. First, Altria makes a huge bet and buys the e-vapor company NJ. But then, bam! A court order from the U.S. International Trade Commission bans the sale of NJ's main product, the Ace e-cigarette. With their #1 product suddenly off the market, all their sales forecasts just fell off a cliff, and that forced Altria to admit they overpaid and take that massive $873 million loss. Ouch. And that court order? That's just one tiny piece of a much bigger puzzle. The truth is, Altria is fighting battles on so many legal fronts at once, it's like they're trying to navigate a complex and very expensive labyrinth. I mean, just look at what they're up against. You've got thousands of individual lawsuits down in Florida. You've got ongoing fights about that huge master settlement agreement from back in the day. You've got patent battles over their new products, and of course, lawsuits from the government. It's a constant multi-front war. We pulled a quote right from the report about those Florida cases that reveals a huge problem for them. What this legal speak basically means is that because of an old class action lawsuit, it's now way easier for people to sue and win. The deck is, in a lot of ways, legally stacked against them before a trial even starts. And remember that massive financial headache we were just talking about? Well, here's the exact wording from the report that caused it. The ITC issued an exclusion order, just 2 little words that completely shut down the main product line of a company they just spent billions to acquire. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. One ruling in one case, and boom, nearly $1 billion just vanishes from the balance sheet. This really shows you just how tangled up their legal troubles are with their financial performance and their whole plan for the future.
Okay, so let's pull the camera back and look at the big picture. We've got the shrinking cash cow, the risky bets that aren't paying off, the legal battles. What does the company's final report card actually look like?
So if you just glance at the top-line numbers, you'll see net revenues are down a little. But then you see net earnings. It fell from $8.2 billion to $5.8 billion. That is a nearly 30% drop in profit in just 1 year. And on the surface, that looks really alarming.
But hold on. As is almost always the case with these reports, the context is absolutely everything. A huge reason for that massive drop is that last year's numbers got a giant boost from a one-time deal, a $2.7 billion gain they got from selling the U.S. rights to the ICOS system. If you take that one-off event out of the equation, the picture looks a whole lot different.
So what's the big takeaway here? When you peel back all the layers of this 73-page report, you find this really dramatic race against time. They are using the incredible profits from a dying business to fund a really difficult, really expensive pivot to a new one, all while trying to dodge a legal minefield. And the ultimate question this whole report leaves you with is a pretty simple one. Will they make it?